Hello and welcome to the Friday show with CJ Werleman, presented by Inside Arabia. I'm your host, CJ Werleman. Thank you for joining us here today and every Friday for a breakdown of some of Inside Arabia's coverage and analysis on the MENA region. And make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a single episode. Our coverage this Friday examines how armed Jewish militias promise another bloody Ramadan for the Palestinians. We then look at the UAE's effort to shore up the Assad regime in Syria, and then finally we reveal how Arab activists are working to combat climate change in the Middle East. Now let's get started. We start with my most recent article, which reveals how increasing numbers of radicalized Jewish settlers are organizing themselves into armed militia groups to make life hell for Palestinians during Ramadan. This is a deeply disturbing development, given the United Nations has not only expressed alarm at the rising rate of violence directed by Jewish settlers towards Palestinians, but also has slammed the Israeli government and military for doing nothing to curb the aggressions and protect Palestinians under siege. According to an Israeli television network, armed settler groups are preparing to do to the residents of Sheikh Jarrah what they did to the Palestinians in the Israeli city of Lod last year, when the self-named Guardians of Lod stormed and attacked Palestinian homes and vandalized mosques and other properties under the protection of Israeli forces. You see, the occupied Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah has been the site of protests and counter-protests since the Israeli government moved to forcibly evict Palestinian residents from their homes in order to clear the way for an all-Jewish residential complex, an effort that meets the textbook definition of ethnic cleansing. And many will remember that it was Jewish settler violence here that sparked an Israeli military raid on Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Islamic Holy Month last year, and a subsequent 11-day offensive on Gaza, which resulted in the deaths of 260 Palestinians, including 39 women and 67 children. Now, given the Israeli government has a long history of inciting violence to provide a pretext for attacking Gaza during Ramadan, it's not unreasonable to believe the same hand is being played in Sheikh Jarrah today. Further worrying is the fact that Israel's far-right political parties are intentionally pouring gasoline onto the fire as part of an ongoing effort to destabilize the government led by Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Therefore, there's little reason to believe Palestinians aren't headed towards yet another violent Ramadan at the hands of their colonial occupiers. We shift now to Giorgio Cafiero's latest article, in which he analyses ongoing efforts by the UAE to normalise and shore up the Assad regime in Syria. An effort that has drawn the ire of Washington DC, given the dictator's close and seemingly unbreakable ties to Iran. While the UAE has tried to convince the United States its rapprochement with Damascus is a calculated gambit to pull Syria away from Tehran's geopolitical orbit, Cafiero argues the move is motivated by Abu Dhabi's quest to build Arab unity against Islamist groups, including the Muslim Brotherhood, along with a strategic desire to establish closer ties with Russia to make itself less dependent on the US for its security needs. Also contrary to the UAE's stated aim of tearing Syria away from Iran is the Iranian regime itself, which has expressed strong support for Abu Dhabi's rapprochement with Assad because it views any effort to legitimize the Assad regime as a potential return on the blood and treasure it has invested in propping up the Syrian dictator during the past decade. Put simply, anything that reduces Syria's isolation is good for Iran, which is why the UAE's stated aims are anything but duplicitous. Finally, we come to Tom Pollitt's recent interview with Fatima Zamba, a Moroccan spokesperson for the recently formed Global Assembly, which is the first international citizens' assembly on the climate crisis, bringing together people from all walks of life to implement democratic solutions in the fight against global warming. Today, it's an undeniable reality that the Middle East and North Africa count among the areas most affected by the results of climate breakdown, such as crop failure and water scarcity, which has made citizens of the region more aware of the facts around climate change and, as a result, more politically engaged. Notably, Arab voices constitute a key contingent of the Global Assembly, which aims to address the climate ecological crisis in a fair and effective way. Zamba regards direct democratic action not only as necessary to change the world, but also as the most natural and organic way of doing so, saying there is nothing as natural as people coming together and coming up with decisions collectively. For the Arab world and the rest of the planet, it now appears that our remaining hope for survival rests with ordinary people engaged in real democracy. You can find all three of these articles and more on InsideArabia.com. Make sure to follow Inside Arabia on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. That's my time for today. This has been the Friday Show with CJ Werleman. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week, same day and same channel.